I'm going to run through some article subject ideas I've just written down as we've been talking, and then I want to go around if there's anything that I didn't mention that you think we should be writing about, please that in. First one is just writing out the assessment and explaining what was found in there.
What would be cool is if we could tie that to a workshop where the assessment's going to be presented.
Because with the assessment comes a nice little side job that they already created for us.
Oh.
Full service.
Doing, talking about the overcrowding at the Humane Society and also volunteer opportunities with all the different organizations. Just a flat-out resources article to explain what you do when you find a pet or if you decide you don't want that pet anymore. That would also coincide with another article about responsibilities of pet ownership, and that could have a sidebar article talking about specific breeds. Spay and neutering opportunities, the importance of doing that, and how you can do it affordably. Animal abuse cases and how they're handled and how they could be handled better. And actually, this is something that has come up to us quite a bit at the paper, but we didn't talk about today. Feral cats on a lot of campuses here in the valley. IVC.
We work with IVC.
With the folks at IVC.
I understand now SNP is a new community group that's going to help them. And also down in Calexico, I used to cover Calexico Unified School District, and that actually, a lot of parents came to meetings and said, their kids were attacked by feral cats going to class. I'm not sure what exactly can be done about that, if there's any way to get the students involved with helping to get them spayed and neutered.
That's a difficult problem because I know that when we have trapped, and then we trapped and released after it was spayed, we've had complaints from the neighbors in the neighborhood because that cat is still digging and pooping in the garden and I'm in the garden or my child's sandbox or whatever, and that's a really hard issue. There are some cities who basically have leash laws for cats. Berkeley. That's never going to happen here. It's not going to happen here. But it is an issue because they can be nasty. They spray sometimes and stuff. But what do? Then do you kill them? Because that's the only alternative. Or you move them someplace else. You're just moving the problem.
And there are several online resources for finding out what works and what doesn't work with feral cats. Alley Cat Allies is one that really works a lot with feral cat populations and can give you the documentation, the case studies of what has worked in different places and what doesn't work. And one of the things that doesn't work is trapping them all and killing them all.
Exactly.
Because more cats come in.
Exactly.
So, but there's a lot of information out there that
We just need to bring it
in.
Absolutely.
It's different than dogs regulatorily in the state of California as well. There are no cat regulations.
Right.
Because they're not there are dogs.
Well,
So
they're
they live outside.
free roaming
Yeah.
agent.
It's free roaming, and there are no. They call animal control and say this is a problem. You need to do this, and we tell them that we have a variety of options. But us going in as animal control and enforcing cat issues in the same way as dog issues, we're not able to do that. So I don't think people understand that.
And then a big problem, like what we see at the Humane Society a lot with the feral cats, is that people they want you to come and get rid of do whatever it is that you're going to do. They really don't care what happens to the animal. But they're not willing to spend the money to do the right thing. And I always try to educate people on TNR, TNR, TNR. And people don't, well, it's not my cat, I'm not going to spend the money. So that's why, initially, when we started our TNR program, we were charging people, to do the cats, but it wasn't getting anywhere. So then what I decided to do was I was going to do some fundraising, and I raised, I think it was probably about $4,000 or $5,000, and it went into our spay and neuter account. And now what we do is when people have cats and they if they're allowed to be TNR, like they bring them in or whatever, animal control, I ask them, can this cat go back to where it came from so we don't have to euthanize them? Our TNR program is free to the public. We ask, could you please leave a donation? That way we could kind of keep this going. And a lot of people say no, but that's why I fundraise so that we could do it. So, because we don't want to euthanize the animals. And that's another thing with the shelter is that we have a very bad reputation of being a kill center, and we're not. I work very, very, very hard at making sure that almost all of those animals that come to the shelter leave alive.
Yeah, I mean, that's another article we could do, and I know that might even, I mean, I don't know how open you are to this, but maybe showing exactly what happens when an animal is brought in. What are the steps? What's the time frame they have before?
That is something we would definitely
Yeah,
do.
totally.
I think it would really open people's eyes. I think a lot of people they make up something in their head and they think
Right.
it's going
You walk
something.
away and
Well, it's the same for abandoning a pet anyway. They think that it's going to be okay. Somebody
It's
will
actually
find a
illegal.
dog. Somebody will
Yeah.
find a cat, and
And
it's going to be
that,
okay.
that is a crime.
That is a
It's
crime.
Animal abandonment is a crime. It can be prosecuted civilly, it can prosecute criminally.
And
Yeah.
people really, and when people are doing stuff like that, they need to be, yes, they do. It's like I call Max and Mario all the time, and I tell them, somebody just, I've literally seen people come up to the shelter, drive, and turn around and are parking, like when you're going into the shelter, they don't even stop and they just throw an animal outside the window of the car. And there's me, instead of getting in the car and following them, I'm running after the car, like I'm going to catch them. And I call the animal control officers and like, did you get a license plate number? And I'm like, no, I couldn't see. And they're like, there's nothing. And I.
You need to be oppressed.
Yeah. Well, and that's why we've been talking about installing cameras.
You
And
can
things.
get
Oh,
so
we would love to
inexpensive.
And then because well, that happened. That there, I don't know.
We have an idea, and we actually went over to that place with an officer, and it was like the dog wasn't there, and it was. Okay.
So, but we wanted to.
It's challenging cases.
We want to get a camera that's facing your guys' direction because of that back fence right there. Because I'm usually there really late at night, and every time the police department probably hates me because every time I hear something, I call them, and
That's all right.
they're always sending an officer out
That's what
there.
they're there for. That's all right.
When Devin had commented about the education, we hand out this little flyer that I wanted to share with everyone at wherever we are, and it's visual. I mean, even the kids get it. You know, they may not be able to understand or to read it, but they see that we're showing them two animals, and look what happens. And
And we
then
have
all of
it
a
in
sudden,
Spanish
and
on
now
the
this is
backside.
how many kitties or dogs are going to be living in your backyard. And it really works well when they see it. We have it in English and Spanish on both sides, so that people have a visual picture of something and see how you can keep these two little kitties in your house, or these two doggies, right there. That's all you have. But if you don't, this is what you're going to end up with. Helps them understand.
Alright, well, we have a little bit of time left, so I just want to kind of go around and if there's any articles that I didn't mention that you think we should be writing, you should let us know.
Well, I did notice at number 5 down here, bringing back the
Oh.
no-kill shelter.
Sorry about that. I understand the community had one 6-7 years
Oh,
back.
that was a little bit.
And that was okay.
Yeah, and Best Friends, which is a Utah-based nonprofit organization, is probably the one best known for promoting no-kill shelters. But there's a lot of controversy on whether they work, because it's just like that pyramid. You're going to end up with more animals than you can get rid of as far as adopting them.
And people don't understand what no-kill shelter does, meaning there are animals that are suffering that need to be euthanized. There are animals that are behaviorally very, very dangerous. There are circumstances in which it is just not appropriate to say no matter what, and it's extraordinarily expensive. When people take that to its extreme, and they mean no kill is no kill, suffering dramatically increases. But so does the overwhelming population. And so the example was Louisville. So that was the quincentennial, a no-kill shelter. And it was definitely the war story.
It was a disaster.
Don't have it in your
Yeah,
archives.
and that's something
It's
we can
terrible
include and let
stories,
people know. So people that are clamoring for that can explain.
But what I think they're clamoring for is an adoption shelter. That no animal that is adopted should be euthanized just because there's no home for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the goal that
Right.
most shelters try very much to achieve. So
That's what
if this is an adoptable animal,
That
whether
is the
they're
idea.
disabled, we actually have good luck with disabled animals.
Yeah.
That pulls
They're
on many
very-
people's heartstrings. So it's not a matter of only the cute ones or only the puppies or the kittens. It's a matter of being adoptable, meaning that
Phyllis Elijah,
you're not
very
suffering, you're
successful
not,
at
you know,
getting them adopted when they're
dangerous.
just little.
Within this last month, being the certified euthanasia technician, the animals that have been put down, I mean, I'm going to say at least 95% of them, they were euthanized for health and behavior issues. But again, I mean, when you're dealing with 400 to 500 animals a month, it does get to the point where you have to say, okay, this dog's been here 6, 7, 8 months. It hasn't been adopted. None of the rescue groups are, wanting to take this dog, and you have to make room to accommodate the new 400 to 500 animals. And that's a lot of people get on us because we're not a no-kill shelter, but when you're just dealing with that many animals,
That's
Like
a
it's-
lifetime prison sentence for that.
You know, that-
exactly, and that's the thing, and it's not right. But I mean, it's not fair to say that. I mean, well, the next best thing is to euthanize you, because, I mean, that's just, I don't know. It gets.
So you're saying 400 to 500 animals. How many of those are dogs and how many are cats?
Majority are cats. Especially during the summer months. I mean, as you guys know, with the cats, it's ridiculous. But I mean, it's. I would say about 40, 60% being cats. I mean, right now, because cats aren't really. A lot of the cities don't even, not a lot, but a few of the cities don't even pick up cats. So we're not getting as many cats as we did in the summer months. Like right now, we're getting a lot of dogs, a lot of dogs.
The official position of the Humane Society is that we will try our absolute utmost to keep an animal as long as possible if it has the barest chance of being adopted. But ultimately, there are situations where the animal is severely suffering, it's emotionally or behaviorally suffering, or we simply don't have facilities to keep it, while letting another animal which has another chance of being adopted or has a greater likelihood of being adopted not be accepted. So it is a horrific, sad calculation that any animal shelters have to make. But we do that because we are a humane society.
Well, I have ideas on a couple ideas on. I told Devin that I did it once before a couple of years ago, where I offered to every dog adopted during the month of December, I offer a free group obedience. So it's $100 per dog is what I charge my group obedience classes, and I'll offer them this December, this month. So I'll get some certificates too. The other thing is I saw where, excuse me, I don't know, community-based personnel, someone who came to help clean it up and help to walk the dogs. There is a program called Shelter Dogs where you actually train people to put just basic manners on the dog, which makes them more adoptable. And those are just a couple of ideas that can help to reduce the population. The dogs of this. I could probably train cats. I went to a seminar where you actually trained a chicken. I trained a chicken you had to pick up a frog and put it in a circle 3 times in a row to show that he was doing it.
Yeah.
And the logic was if you can train a chicken, you can train anything. I didn't try why.
That's hilarious.
So, Kenny did.
That's cool.
Like also, I don't know if you guys probably would know better than anyone if there has been successful pet adoption stories. I think maybe people don't want to adopt because they have maybe a mental standing on, this pet belonged to someone before. They may not be acclimated to deal with kids or young, little kids or other dogs that they may already have. So if you guys have pet adoption stories that we can
I'm sure you
understand.
do, and Phyllis and Dee,
Yeah.
they would too, because that's just
So
mainly
people
what
can
they do.
share their stories and maybe even share their experiences of bringing a new dog that may be a little bit older, that interacts with their family or kids. Or
That's like that dog that we had, Fuzzy, with the dog that was found in El Centro, Floyd Lampart. He was doing that 12,000-mile bike ride around the nation to raise $100,000 for the Best Friends Animal Society. And when he actually stopped here in El Centro, and he found a schnauzer, brought it to the shelter, or he called me. I went and picked up the schnauzer from where he was staying in the hotel. And then he actually rode his bike to the shelter. He called the press. They came. They did a story. We thought for sure that this dog was going to get adopted or be claimed, and nobody ever called about it.
Wow.
The dog ended up receiving national attention, and then, but he would call on a weekly basis. It was like within a 4-month time frame. He would call me and ask me, how's he doing? Did he get adopted? And I said, no. He goes, I don't understand. He goes, if this happened in New York, he goes, that dog would have been gone the same day. And then his wife actually made contact with me, and she said, all he does is talk about that dog. She goes, we have to adopt this dog. So I got him groomed, I got him neutered, put him on a private jet and sent him to New York. And they'll every once in a while they'll send cards with pictures of him, and they'll call, and it's
life.
Yeah. It was on a private jet. I saw that they took pictures. I was like,
It's amazing. That's very
"That's
cool.
a nice jet."
See, that's a great story. That's a great story.
And then he sent me video of him running in this like big field of just grass and trees, playing with the other dog. It was awesome.
And great ways of getting publicity too is like Ginger, the new court dog for the county district attorney's office. She's they're using her already in schools for no bullying campaigns, and I do career days. I'm scheduled to do a career day at the Broadway Junior High, and Central Union has been going in February to do a career day as well. Dog training. So, preach the spay and neuter and training when they're young before they get too big.
Chelsea, one of the things that I didn't hear on your list that you might want to think about is just the lack of professional services that we have available. I mean, with the loss of Doc Thompson and Steve Bowen's retirement, we are really in a world of hurt for professionals in this community, and I don't.
Emergency here
There is
after
no
hours is
emergency.
Indio or Yuma.
Yeah.
So
Emergency care, large animal care is another real need that we have. I know that Doc Bowen tried for a number of years to find someone to come in, take over my practice, and couldn't do it.
Well,
somebody coming in.
Yeah, there's going to be a new veterinarian taking over.
Oh, really? That's great.
Do you guys recall when they used to come down in a van and do spay and
Yes.
neutering, and then one of the
Oh, yeah.
vets kind of had an objection to it because it, for
Cut
whatever
into
reason, cut into its business. Is there a possibility of us getting that back?
Well, the thing
That would be
is,
great.
California, from what I understand, they actually recently passed a law that I guess the neuter scooters or whatever they call them, the vans, they can't be used as a hospital because it's mobile, and you have to have the DEA license has to be part of a stationary.
So if you park it in someone's vet's parking lot,
I
that would be fine.
think
And I think they would have no
Parking lot,
problem
you
with
can
that.
do it, depending upon the services at your animal control. County animal control, we used to have
Yeah,
it.
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You probably would have it as well, of what would be necessary if they would park it with you.
Yeah, 'cause we are under Dr. Abigail's DEA license. I'll look into it a little bit because that isn't. I did speak. I work with Pug Nation in LA a lot, and they have a lot of contacts. And they said that they would actually speak to a veterinarian with a mobile unit about coming down and trying to do low cost spay and neuter day.
As long as they're with a vet or they're with one of the animal shelters that have the vet license, then you can do it.
sounds good.
Any other story ideas?
Well, one this is a little macabre, I guess. One thing that I've heard a lot is where people can't afford after-hour consultation with the local veterinarian. It's the fee on top of an extra $100 because it's an emergency fee or it's after hours, and a lot of people, like I said, they can't afford that, and so. With me, instead of allowing the animal, I mean, if it's something simple like maybe a broken leg, you can hold off until the next day or something. But sometimes, I've seen some animals that they've been hit by a car, and the best thing for the animal at that point is to have them euthanized. and being that I am a certified euthanasia technician, I mean, this was something that I was going to run by my board members. Is, you know, providing some type of like after hours. I mean, I'm already on call 24/7 with some like the Brawley Police Department, so they like to call me at 3 o'clock in the morning. We found a dog, so then I got to drive all the way to the shelter. But you know, if somebody has an animal, and I mean, it's an emergency, and instead of allowing the animal to just suffer up until the point where it goes, I would feel a lot better making it, you know, doing it peacefully. But I mean, and that's the thing, though. It has to be up to the owner. I mean, that has to be their decision.
But going through the PD may kind of be a little
Yeah.
bit more helpful. You say, okay, the officers.
No. I'm saying their own animal. Like, no, because if it's a stray animal, then no, because I mean, like, you know, the animal has to be seen by a veterinarian, or it has to be held for a certain amount of time, days or whatever.
But you're saying like something happened to mine.
Like if Kelly, if he was like, oh, my dog is, you know.
Got hit by a truck.
You still, I mean, there's a lot of issues that have to be looked at before you want to safely do that. Because you can't, I don't mean clinically safe to do, I just mean bureaucratically safely do that. But I think it brings up the bottom line is we don't even have that service. I mean, so it's really the shortage of veterinary services right now are critical.